Hello, my name is Austin Habish, the founder of Think Catholic, and you're listening to the Summa podcast, where we study St. Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologiae in a way simple and insightful for anyone to understand. The Summa podcast is brought to you by Think Catholic. Taking two questions of the Summa a day, we'll seek to summarize St. Thomas's responses, discovering the brilliance of Aquinas and his Catholic faith is day 182. So let's get started. We're covering today questions 128, 129 of the Secunda Secundae, that is, of the parts of fortitude and of magnanimity. The translation that I always use in these podcasts is one generously provided to me by Ave Maria Press, the 5-volume set translated by the Fathers of the English Dominican province, which you can now get at a discounted price from Ave Maria Press's site by typing in the code Summa 10. And so here we go. Article 1. Whether the parts of fortitude are suitably assigned. When it comes to a virtue, it can have integral parts, subjective parts, or potential annexed parts. For example, take the virtue of justice. Integral to justice is that one pursue the good and avoid evil. Then the species or kinds of justice, considered as a specific virtue, are commutative justice, distributive justice, equity, as we described a couple episodes ago. And then its potential annexed parts are religion, piety, observance, etc. So when it comes to fortitude as a specific virtue, the habit of staring down the possibility of death in combat or warfare with the firmness that keeps fear and daring in check so as to act according to reason, this virtue doesn't have subjective parts or different species, kinds of it, but it does have integral parts to it. For in order to have the virtue of fortitude, one must have, according to Aquinas, both a kind of confidence, a preparedness of mind to struggle against dangers of death, as well as magnificence, which denotes a nobleness of mind to undertake this impending perilous feat. Fortitude requires the right ingredients of aggression and endurance to get off the ground, and that is what St. Thomas means by confidence and magnificence as integral parts of the specific virtue of fortitude. Now, if the object of one's fear and daring is not placed on the threat of death and battle, then the virtue, confirming a mind against his passions in the arduous good, will not be called fortitude, but being similar to fortitude will constitute virtues annexed to it. These annexed virtues are termed patience, that the mind be not broken by sorrow and fall away from its greatness by reason of the stress of threatening evil. The next virtue is perseverance, that by the prolonged suffering of hardships man may be not wearied. In this respect, Aquinas says this is perseverance, which according to him, he describes it as the fixed and continued persistence in a well-considered purpose. Third, there is magnificence, which is referred to by Aristotle as the virtue of great expenditure, which we will get into greater detail down the road. Then there is magnanimity, which seems to be the same as confidence, but as directed towards great honors. That's Aquinas' words. Now, each of these can be considered annexed virtues, having their own object, but may also be considered integral to fortitude itself, if considered in a different way, as St. Thomas tells us. Accordingly, if these be confined to the proper matter of fortitude, namely to dangers of death, they will be quasi-integral parts thereof, because without them there can be no fortitude. Whereas if they be referred to other matters involving less hardship, they will be virtues specifically distinct from fortitude, but annexed thereto. Now on to question 129 of magnanimity, Article 1, whether magnanimity is about honors. This word, magnanimity, according to its parts from the Latin, literally means great-souled, and so is concerned with, as St. Thomas says, stretching forth of the mind to great things. And the greatest created thing a man can strive for is virtue, the effect of which is honor, as Jesus Christ taught, if anyone serves me, he must follow me, and where I am, there shall my servant be also. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him. And this is what the magnanimous man pursues, honor, yet according to right reason, as an effect of virtue. As St. Thomas says, if one were to despise honors so as not to care to do what is worthy of honor, this would be deserving of blame. Accordingly, magnanimity is about honors in the sense that a man strives to do what is deserving of honor, yet not so as to think much of the honor accorded by man. Article 2, whether magnanimity is essentially about great honors. Because we are talking about virtues annexed to fortitude, these annexed virtues must as well concern these irascible passions in regard to some arduous object. And the arduous object which magnanimity confirms us in is the pursuit of honor, and great honor specifically because it is from here that its arduous nature comes from. And within this article, we receive a beautiful description of the magnanimous man. So before moving to our next article, I'd like to quote Aquinas at length here. He says, "The magnanimous man looks upon great honors as a thing of which he is worthy, or even little honors as something he deserves, since man cannot sufficiently honor virtue, which deserves to be honored by God. Hence he is not uplifted by great honors, because he does not deem them above him, rather does he despise them, and much more such as are ordinary or little. In like manner he's not cast down by dishonor, but despises it, since he recognizes that he does not deserve it." Article 3, whether magnanimity is a virtue. Virtues assist reason in the pursuit of the true good, and in external affairs the desire for honor and the disordered passions which can arise in pursuit of such or apprehension of such requires a virtue to integrate us in those passions pertaining to them. And this is what the virtue of magnanimity is all about, integrating the man in accord with reason in pursuit of the good of honor, especially that of great honors. And such is not itself even opposed to humility either, for they work in tandem, as Aquinas teaches, and I'll quote him here just for how important that lesson is. He says, "Magnanimity makes a man deem himself worthy of great things in consideration of the gifts he holds from God. On the other hand, humility makes a man think little of himself in consideration of his own deficiency. And magnanimity makes him despise others insofar as they fall away from God's gifts, since he does not think so much of others as to do anything wrong for their sake. Yet humility makes us honor others and esteem them better than ourselves, insofar as we see some of God's gift in them. It is therefore evident that magnanimity and humility are not contrary to one another, although they seem to tend in contrary directions." Article 4, whether magnanimity is a special virtue. Virtues are determined by their object, and we have a unique object here, honors. Just like the virtue of liberality had a unique object, money or external goods of value. And since honors are unique, then we should expect there to be just as unique vices and virtues attendant upon it. The virtue or good quality in the man orienting him rightly towards honors is what we call magnanimity. Article 5, whether magnanimity is a part of fortitude. If we consider fortitude not as it is individually, the virtue of death and combat, but as a general firmness confirming of the man towards the arduous good, then magnanimity is a kind or part of fortitude. It's a virtue similar to fortitude because it consists in standing firm in some arduous good, which is honors. Yet it is different from fortitude in that pursuing honor is a less arduous endeavor to be conformed in, as opposed to dying as a martyr for Christ or a soldier in battle. Therefore, magnanimity is not identical to fortitude, but instead an annexed virtue to fortitude. Article 6, whether confidence belongs to magnanimity. As we have said already, confidence definitely pertains to fortitude, as a preparedness of mind towards the possible evil. But here Aquinas tells us that confidence is also a part of magnanimity, only differing in that here it is less directed towards the possible evil, but more of a confidence or a strong hope in the possible good to be attained, which, as we have said, are these great honors. In St. Thomas's words, magnanimity is chiefly about the hope of something difficult. Wherefore, since confidence denotes a certain strength of hope arising from some observation which gives one a strong opinion that one will obtain a certain good, it follows that confidence belongs to magnanimity. Article 7, whether security belongs to magnanimity. The Latin here, securitas, is security. So what are we talking about here in this specific context? And Aquinas tells us that security consists in giving way neither to a troubled mind, nor to man, nor to fortune. And to help us understand security's place among the other virtues or parts of virtues we have mentioned here, St. Thomas says, "Wherefore, as confidence belongs immediately to magnanimity, so security belongs immediately to fortitude." So just as confidence is integral to the magnanimous man who is full of hope, so security is integral to the man of fortitude who is not overcome by fear. Yet confidence also upholds fortitude as security does magnanimity, which is our question in this article, and is answered by St. Thomas in the following words: "As hope is the cause of daring, so is fear the cause of despair. Thus, confidence belongs indirectly to fortitude insofar as it makes use of daring, so security belongs indirectly to magnanimity insofar as it banishes despair." Article 8 in our last article, whether goods of fortune conduce to magnanimity. And although the magnanimous man despises eternal goods, as St. Thomas says, in that such a man would never do something unvirtuous for their sake, the magnanimous man definitely does recognize the utility of such in accomplishing great things and the resulting attainment of great honors. And I think it's good to quote St. Thomas at length here in this argument that although virtue is sufficient of itself, a man can be magnanimous without external goods. They are greatly helpful in acquiring great honor. As he says, magnanimity regards two things: honor as its matter and the accomplishment of something great at its end. Now, goods of fortune conduce to both these things. The multitude who hold goods of fortune in high esteem, the result is that they show greater honor to those who possess goods of fortune. Likewise, goods of fortune are useful organs or instruments of virtuous deeds, since we can easily accomplish things by means of riches, power, and friends. Hence, it is evident that goods of fortune conduce to magnanimity. And with that, we come to a close of another episode. We have just finished covering questions 128 and 129 of the Secunda Secundae, that is, of the parts of virtue and of magnanimity. My name is Austin Habish with Think Catholic, and I cannot wait to see you tomorrow.